I'm really honored to be here today. I was asked to come here today to talk about, I'm kind of a local troublemaker, so you see me causing trouble around different issues. But today I'm actually here to talk about the We Care campaign that was actually established by another woman and myself, Rain Hamilton, who's a non-Indigenous woman, who approached me after the brutal murder of Tina Fontaine, in real distress, wanting to find a way to participate and help as an ally. And what I said to her was this: she's a beautiful musician, she's actually a trained musician. What I said to her was, nobody owns violence. When there is violence, it is all of our responsibility to act. This is a Canadian issue. This is not an Indigenous issue. In fact, the majority of violence that's perpetrated against Indigenous women and girls happens at the hands of non-Indigenous men. And it's going to take the whole country acting in solidarity to address it. So because she's such a talented musician, she decided to help by gathering her fellow artists, friends, and we had an opening concert or a campaign launch at the end of November. Now, I was just sharing that it was a campaign that's starting to become a full-time job, and the reason is because people care. There is not a shortage of caring. And basically what the We Care campaign is it's to stand in solidarity, to send a clear message that we will not stop until the level of violence against Indigenous women and girls is addressed. And what we're asking for is a community-based, community-led national inquiry. So not a top-down or a top-down approach, but a community-up approach, inquiry, and immediate action. That it's not an either-or discussion. That when you have Human Rights Watch, when you have Amnesty International, when you have the United Nations, again last week, calling for the need of a national inquiry and immediate action into the serious crisis of murdered and missing Indigenous girls, women and girls, that this does not warrant a discussion of either or. It requires heavy investment. And so one of the things I learned, I was one of the people that helped with the family when we had the vigil at the Alexander Docks. And, you know, I've been a local troublemaker most of my life. Tim Sale knows this. He knew my parents. I come from a long line of troublemakers. And never in my life did I expect so many people there. Never did I expect there to be over 2,000 people there standing in solidarity, saying we care. The majority of which, I would say about half and half, were non-Indigenous. And what that said to me is that people care. People want to act. They just don't know what to do. People don't know what to do, and it's so bad, and people don't know what to do. So the We Care campaign, like the vigil, like the outpouring of love that was shown at the vigil, because nobody can deny that was a little girl. And I know for myself, I don't think I've ever recovered from it, even though I never met Tina, even though I'm not close to the family. There was something about that that just really hit me to the core. To the core that I think really pushed me forward to sound my voice even louder and to say I will not stop no matter what until the violence against Indigenous women and girls is resolved. That our children and our women have a right to be safe. That my niece should be able to take a cab without me feeling panicked. That I have a right to walk gently on the earth and not be violated. And I think most Canadians feel that way too. So the We Care campaign has really started out as a social media campaign, although it's now it's a national speaking tour and a full-time job and interviews and way more than I ever expected it to be. But it started out as a social media campaign, basically people holding a sign, hashtag we care, hashtag MMIW, hashtag MMIWG, 2S, two spirit, to show solidarity that they care. So we've had huge endorsements. People like the Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition, Thomas Mulcair, Council of Canadians. The Mennonite Church has really been involved with We Care, and I've actually done some speaking engagements with the Mennonite Church. A number of other organizations, several thousand Canadians, showing that they care. Because what we're trying to do is send a very loud message to government that Canadians are watching, that this is an election issue, that they need to address this in their platforms coming out very soon in the next federal election. We want it as a main question in the next election debate. We want to know very clearly how they're going to address the issue of violence against Indigenous women and girls. And I usually do a longer presentation, and I talk about Helen Betty Osborne and the Aboriginal Justice Implementation Commission, noting that it was racism and indifference being two of the factors that led to this incomprehensible amount of time it took to address her murder, to come to the truth of her murder. And I often ask myself, what would have happened if at the time of her death that people stood in solidarity and said, we care? What if at the time the police were extra diligent because they knew the Canadian public was watching and would have a public outcry because we care? And what would have happened at the time that she passed away, that the community would have spoken up because they knew that staying silent was wrong, because they cared? And I think we're moving towards that way. And I think that the We Care campaign certainly exemplifies that level of growing care in Winnipeg. So please check us out. Please, it's a Facebook page, We Care campaign, and take a picture and tweet it out. Tweet out your picture and send a really clear message of care. So thank you very much for listening to my short presentation.